Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today I have Miss Julianne Grant Johnson. She is a top producing realtor here in Northeast Florida, Jacksonville. She has had an amazing June. If you look up her social media, Jacksonville Business Journal recognized her, as well as the Jacksonville Real Producers, which is the top 500 real estate agents in Northeast Florida. She's on the show for the second time. Episode 207 was number one, and we're just going to do a little update show here today, but really drill down where the first show we dug into her and her life and and a little bit about her business. We're going to drill right into business because she does handle. She's the wife of an active duty naval aviator. She's in with the Naval Academy, gets a lot of referrals out of there. She's working a lot with VA loans. So we're going to talk probably half the show about some of the things there. So the agents out there, or some of the agents, are still don't understand the VA loan. I'm telling you right now, and I'm sure, Julianne, you will agree with me, if someone says they're doing a VA loan, take that loan over everybody else you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
It is the best loan out there, most forgiving. No matter what boo-boos they have, they find a way to get them the tough ones closed. The easy ones are easy. But Julianne, welcome back.
Thank you for having
I
me.
appreciate you coming down this morning, and I'm really looking forward to talk some shop with you.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to have you pull that mic just a little. Yeah, don't put it in front of you. I get about 6 or 8 inches there. I should have told you that before we turned it. But since the last time we spoke,
Yes.
you've expanded to the Grant Johnson Group.
Yeah.
Okay, so you brought a new person on. Tell us about that process and what led up to that.
Absolutely. So I think actually the last time we spoke, I told you right after we stopped filming, I said, exciting news, we are going to officially start this team. Maybe next time we can discuss it. So this was really a year and a half in the making before we launched the team. And something I love about it was it felt very, I always say, organic. It was the right thing to do, and a lot of thought went into it. And my broker really helped facilitate it. It was kind of a non-traditional story building up to it, where I was pregnant and put on bed rest, and I called my broker and I was like, I have a ton of business and I don't want to slow down. I don't care that I'm on bed rest. I'm not slowing down. What do I do?
A challenge. Yeah.
He was like, okay, and he recommended a couple agents.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, this is who I think I'm going to work the best with. Let's try it out. And by the end of that is when I kind of had the realization, oh, I can do this. I could run a team. I could grow my sales. I could grow my income. I can help other people. I can do all of these things. So then we continued kind of like a trial period after I was off bed rest, what that looked like with me learning to delegate, learning to let go control of certain things, being comfortable with my clients, experiencing other agents. And finally, we were like, this is it, and this is working really well. We did have the sales, too, to support us. That being said, I was always very transparent that you can always get your own leads. So the leads don't have to come from me. And that's when we made the decision to leap and never look back.
Give us a little background. It says those who have not listened to episode 207 want to go back and because I'm sure we spoke about this a little bit, and we were talking about it pre-show. You have spent a lot of time. Obviously, your husband's in the Navy, went to the academy, but you have spent a lot of time building a relationship there, and building that credibility with that space, which anyone can do. Hopefully you're in an alumni space or whatever it is that you do, a mom's group or whatever, you can do the same things that you're doing here. But the value, obviously, of these agents see the value of working with you because you are getting a nice flow of leads coming from this relationship. What did it take to get that started?
It really just takes putting yourself out there. This is a relationship business, and at the end of the day, we can talk about selling homes and selling things all we want, but my clients care that I'm relatable. And I think being a person and being the person who lives the same life as them or has lived the same life, I now have younger clients who, like, we were in your shoes at one point, so I understand them. But you really just have to put yourself out there. And it was hard for me at first on social media. It was very hard for me to put myself out there. And once I made that step, it was the best step that you can take.
How did you make, I mean, obviously, the several thousand of cadets that go through every year at but you've made that relationship. We talked about your lending relationship spins from that, and you're getting leads from that because they're not in the area.
Yeah.
So, but they're kind of tapped into the same source here, right? They're really working that Naval Academy alumni, letting them know they're out there to help them.
So we actually started with, I would say, social media, but then we did an actual event, which I think if you read a lot about networking and stuff, these client appreciation events or networking events are some of the most valuable things that you can do. I see an incredible return on them. But that is where it started, was we did this big event, put out tickets, students could go, alumni could go, and then speakers were brought in that were other alumni or even like West Point grads, people who kind of fit that mold. Taught all about like house hacking with the VA loan, right? There's this misconception that you can't use the VA loan for investment. But if you're occupying it as a primary residence, it can still be an investment. So talking about house hacking, talking about picking up a property from one station to the next, what your budget should be so that way you can keep entitlement and keep doing zero down, talking about the potential refinance to restore it, things like that, and just providing value.
It's interesting. I was researching and speaking to someone actually just last week, and we were talking about a major lender here that we all know. We see them on TV, and the ancillary services that they provide, like they have that app that will go in and analyze, where your payments are going, right? Your subscriptions and all that type of stuff. And they're getting that into college kids' hands, that app. And you start incubating them because I think everyone, for the most part, wants to buy a home. When they do, we don't know. They might do it at their first duty station, wherever they're at. It might be when they retire. They may rent the whole time, the type of thing. We just don't know when they're going to make that step. But everyone's a possible client. When are you going to get them?
Yes.
And that their funnel is basically to grab those possible future buyers early and continue to nurture them, which it sounds like you're doing with the Academy alumni. Is getting them while they're still at the Academy and educating them on, hey, okay, you're going to have to go out and be an adult. You're not going to have the barracks to sleep in, any longer. You're going to get married or whatever and want your own house off base or whatever.
Exactly. And that was kind of the idea, and it was part of the inspiration, is that was one of my husband and I's biggest regrets, is that we didn't buy a home immediately when he was in flight school. And we look back on that and how much money we could be making if that home were a rental.
Right.
The prices are lower there. The entry it's just way lower there. And thinking about what that.
And that was definitely pre-COVID, so it was probably a good price.
But even still, in certain military towns, prices are not. You can still buy that entry-level home and have enough entitlement at your next place to go zero down. So teaching people about that strategy and mistakes that we made too, that we're all human, and you should just get into real estate as soon as you can. Not a sales pitch, just do it.
Yeah. Well, hindsight's 20/20. Right. So yeah, we see that, but you're sharing that with it, and a number of those servicemen are taking, listening to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And now you've become a resource for them.
Yes.
You were mentioning earlier, they're calling you, go, hey, I'm going to be in San Diego or wherever. I need an agent. And they're calling you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was part of our network, if you will, is that we have a realtor at every major base. So that way you can stay with us. We can all talk throughout the process. If I have someone going to San Diego and they want me to stay and communication makes them more comfortable, I'm happy to do that. I also see the long-term thing here, especially with the military, that they may come to Jacksonville, and I want them to call me next.
Yes. Now, let's go back to the original. You brought on a new agent,
Yes.
not an experienced or semi-experienced agent, a very green new agent to expand your team last year.
I brought on 2 green agents.
Two green agents. So you were talking with your broker and looking at who should these people be.
Mm-hmm.
You chose someone with no experience.
So first team member did have experience, but the last 2 additions are 0 experience.
No, so you're actually, so you and 3 other, you have 3 okay, here in town.
I have 2 here
I'm talking here in town.
Here
We'll talk about Pensacola in a
there's
minute.
3 of us
I don't count
total.
Pensacola just
3
yet.
of us total here in town. First agent, Alex, he was experienced, very experienced, which was kind of like I was on bed rest. I couldn't train somebody. Let's bring on someone who knows what they're doing, minimize my risk, right? But then the next person that I brought on was a brand new agent, and that was a tough decision. And it took me, with just transparency, it took me a while to make that decision. Mm-hmm. And we definitely had a trial period, but ultimately, yes,
It worked out.
Yes.
It's for the agents that are listening out there, the balance of the two, because we talked a little bit about pre-show, because I know the complex thing is you bring on somebody, you're nurturing them, mm-hmm. you're pouring into them, whether it was that semi-experienced person, because I imagine that the semi-experienced person you brought on, obviously had experience enough to do what you needed to do to execute, but if they had their own business and were thriving, they just didn't have time for you. But this person had time for you. They had the knowledge and obviously to keep your brand up,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Being the most important thing. But the difference in the time and energy you had to pour into them, and the reason why I'm asking this question is, I think a lot of agents out there think they're too busy, mm-hmm. and they jump too quickly, or they truly are busy. But making that decision of who you bring on, there's time involved. It's not just, oh, hey, I got another agent working, and they're going to run like you are. You've got to pour some energy to get them up to, I guess, your speed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are definitely growing pains, whether you bring on an experienced agent or not. And that was part of the conversation with my broker when he was essentially playing matchmaker. It's like, this agent that you're going to bring on has not had as much success as you with prospecting, so getting the client, but is arguably better than you at paperwork. Apparently, according to my broker, I'm not the best at paperwork.
Well, that's good. That's good, because there's a lot of people that can do paperwork.
So that was a big thing, and I remember our first contract together. The admin in our office was like, "I've been waiting for this day, where your loops were just perfect and clean and easy to prove." So there were, I would say it's a recommendation then, is finding someone who can offset your weaknesses. And that's really what I did the first time around, as far as bringing a green agent on.
Did you consciously think about that when you brought them on, though? When you were bringing, say, hey, I'm not really good at paperwork, so the person I want to bring on, I want them to be.
No.
But you didn't think about that initially.
That I was in my head at that. I mean, yes, when we made the decision to formally be a team, but no, when he first started helping me.
That wasn't one of the things that you were necessarily focused on, but realize now, after working, you go, oh, this was really even better than I thought it was going to be, because he's good at that and I'm good. Yeah.
And now he acts as TC for all team members because he's so excellent at that.
And he enjoys doing it.
Mm-hmm. He also gets paid for it.
Yeah, well, you've got to. So just to run out the new agent, obviously you had to pour a lot more time in.
Yes.
And bring him up.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you did, or did your broker help you out? Where did you go to help set that structure if it was a structure? I mean, how did you have an actual plan, like this is how we're going to do it for the next 30, 60, 90, whatever type of thing?
So thankfully our brokerage still has like their Rising Star training program. So a new agent still completes that. They still do all of that. I, as the team lead, help fund some of that training. I invest in the team, things like that. But we really just do like a trial and error period. So things like showings, open houses. I think open houses are so important. That's where I gained confidence and learned to talk the talk. So that is a requirement for me for new agents. Really, for all of my team members, they need to be doing open houses on our listings or other agents in our office listings.
Did you have a transaction coordinator before you brought the extra agents on, or you went from just solo to what we're talking about?
First agent became transaction coordinator before I signed anyone else. Yes.
A licensed transaction coordinator.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Which I find so valuable.
So they were able to sit open houses, handle your contracts, which they need to learn anyway.
Yes.
Which was invaluable to them. Hopefully they understood what they were learning.
Yes.
Because a new agent that's not getting a lot of business, not really learning a lot about the contracts because they're not doing a lot of contracts, but they're doing your contracts.
Yes.
So they were learning this on the go.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a unique, great way for a new agent to get started.
Yes.
Be your assistant, maybe bring in a handful of your own deals, but work the overflow that you have.
Yes.
Great idea. Looking back 12 months, if you were to make this utopia, what are some things that mistakes that you might have made or choices that you made that didn't work out and you had to fix?
So a hard lesson for me was that, because I will point out that the people I'm hiring are all my age and my peers. I walk a fine line of being their friend. I am the team leader, and realizing that I have to step up and this is my business and be the leader and have hard conversations. I cannot be your friend all the time.
Right.
And I don't think anyone expected me to be their friend, but it was a really hard step for me to
When you're spending all this time together,
Right.
you're same age, type of thing. You mentioned hard conversations, and you mentioned it before the show when we were just talking about the things we wanted to talk about. For those who are thinking about listening to this and going, man, I want to have a team, but you have this relationship thing, and sometimes you have to have a hard conversation. I don't think many people think about that in real estate, but if these people are taking, the hard work you put in to have these leads coming from this source that you have credibility in and so forth, these are gold to them. That's their paycheck. You're handing them to them, but you expect a certain level. What are some of the things that you've had hard conversations about?
I would say communication is a tough thing, making sure that we're all on top of our communication. And like you said, I want things done how I want them done. This is my business, and they're my leads. Maybe when you get your own lead, you can handle or do your own process a little bit differently. But if you're using my name to market, let's reflect how I like my business done.
Right. Well, when you say that, my name to market, are they marketing your name as everyone would think? Hey, we're Walmart or whatever. They're not broadcasting Julianne Grant Johnson on their social media.
No, it's more just part of the Grant Johnson group, and it's in our team agreement that it would change how a lead is considered, right, in the commission structure of a lead, if you want to say that they are using the entire team, and if you want me to be involved in that transaction and be able to rely on our statistics and our time on market and how quick we can sell a home.
Okay, I see what you're
concessions that we negotiate, which different conversations.
Your reputation.
Everything that we do, if you're gonna lean on the team stats, you're going to have to do things how I want them done.
All right. You made me lose track of thought of the next question. I know there's other topics, but I want to stay here. Anyone who's out there right now listening to you that is thinking one day, I highly suggest they contact you, because
Absolutely.
this is so if you're new to the business and you're listening to the show right now, this is a problem hopefully you will have. You reach the lid.
Yes.
What I wanted you to just touch on that point. What was going on in your business? Because I don't think we really got we got kind of caught off with the going to the broker thing. But what was going on in your business that you realized you're losing business?
Yes.
Because you're not leveraging others.
It was, I would say, like, I started the business. I was doing like one transaction a month when I first got my license back in 2020, which is great, right? 12 transactions a year is great. I don't want this to come across as me not thinking that is successful, because that is a great amount of business. And then
If you can do your first year and do 12 transactions
Yeah.
your first year, you're top of the heap on a new agent. Yeah.
And that's pretty much where I was, and where the realization happened of like, I'm growing pretty fast. I'm, passing the typical new realtor stats. So realizing that I was growing at a pace that maybe wasn't average. So then all of a sudden I'm having 4, 5, 6 closings a month. And that was when my head started just kind of spinning. And I, to be really honest, was like, I'm having a hard time remembering which client's on which contract without referencing my notes. And I didn't love that, because I really liked more in the beginning where I was able to be super personal with people. And I started losing that ability. And
Which probably attributed to your growth because you were super personal.
Yes. And that's right. I was really putting myself out there. I always joke that I overinvest myself into these contracts. I'm like way too involved in their personal lives. But part of the reason I love this business, and that was those 4 or 5 closings a month, is when I was like, this isn't good for me either. Like, this is not sustainable. It's not healthy.
Well, 4 or 5 closings a month. It wasn't your first month you did 4 or 5 closings, because I think a lot of agents get to this point where they have this 1 month where they have 4 or 5. Oh my God, I got to go out and I got to bring in other agents, and all of a sudden the next month you're back to 1s and 2s.
No, this was a consistent doing multiple transactions every month.
Right.
Yes.
And everyone just realized also your husband is deployed a lot.
Gone, right. So my threshold may be a little different.
Yeah. And you have 3 kids, very young children that you're handling. He's wherever in the world they send him a lot of times. So, you handle 4 or 5 transactions a month for numerous months before it's like, hey man, I'm hitting the wall. I'm going to go insane.
Terrible story of my husband was gone. I was pregnant. My now middle child's like sitting on my lap with a fever. I'm typing a contract and she's like peeing on me. and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Where is somebody to help me?
Right.
And there was no reason for me to be doing that by myself at 4 or 5 transactions a month.
Great place to be. Ultimately, you have to go and pray and say, hey, thank God I'm here and I have this problem.
Yes.
But you had a broker to back you up. And I think this is number 2 step here in growth, choosing the right broker who can graduate you to the next level.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What you mentioned earlier here, he helped you with, making some suggestions. What was there a playbook, a plan? How has your broker kind of stayed, watching what you're doing and helping you work through some of these situations? Because like you said, you've expanded now to Pensacola. How do you handle that? I imagine that was another conversation that you had.
So we actually talked when I started the team really a few years ago that was always a goal of mine, just because I'm from there and I knew that I would be able to manage business there. It was just, when was that time going to happen? And then the time came, and it felt like a very natural transition. But where my broker has really helped is in the tough conversations on different like commission structures within a team.
Right.
All teams are different. All team leaders are different. All team members are different. Experience level plays a part. Who's bringing in the leads plays a part. How involved I am in the transaction after I give you a lead plays a part. And, my team members have had questions, and a lot of times it helps to have a really strong broker act as a mediator between some of those conversations. Especially, it took me a while to gain some confidence as the leader, like I said, and stepping up.
And you're amongst peers, people
right.
your same age. It's not like you're 50 and they're 25, and so you already kind of have that
right
age thing going. But that's very interesting, and I think those, again, listening, finding the right broker. Julianne talked to her, how her broker helped her walk through this, and having, like you said, I think one of the challenges too that a lot of agents have and kind of push off not expanding is because they don't know how am I going to create the commission structure? What is the value I'm bringing in? And then obviously they got to understand what is the value, the agent you're bringing on, the value of you to them, and in reality, what is a reasonable split there to create, because you are, again, teaching, and one of the most valuable thing is obviously giving them your business
right.
to close, and they're walking away with a good percentage of that with really doing the HGTV part, which is just showing the house, and you're probably obviously involved in any deep conversation of negotiations on these deals.
I will say that the one thing that I am heavily involved in, no matter how the lead is ultimately distributed, is a client does not sign with our team without me on the consult. I have a 100% success rate on buyer consults of getting buyers to sign with our team. And I don't know if I know any other realtor who could say that.
I like that. One, I think it tells the buyer, this is my brand. This is my business. I know you're going to work with this gentleman, this lady over here to go out and look at, but I'm here.
I also
and I'm making sure to
I make that joke on there. I'm like, I'm going to be copied on your group messages.
Right.
Like, I don't just go away. I'm always here. We actually, in our team agreement, something I recommend, which one of my team members was the inspiration behind this, we have a timeline structure on responses. So if someone doesn't respond, someone else needs to step in on that group text. We don't want our clients left on red. So that's something that they get. And
that is actually one of the most amazing things I know in the lending side, in the lending transaction. If there's any one comment that's the most is they responded quickly. Because that stress that they have, and they go, oh my God, I got a question. And if you respond very quickly, a lot of times it's not the answer, it's how fast you respond.
The younger generations expect this.
Yeah. All right. Just to tell everyone a little bit, you're from Pensacola area.
Yes.
You had a vision eventually moving out there. You have the Naval Aviators Club, we'll call it. Those referrals coming in. I met guys are being in and out of Pensacola, so they need representation. You're becoming a that concierge for them. You were referring out there, but you're like, let me start my own group. So you have agents out there you don't touch and feel on a daily basis like you do here in Jacksonville. It's whether it's through a text, email, or maybe a phone call. But you reached out, and now you have a couple agents out there now that are.
I have one official agent out there.
And and obviously they're with the Berkshire Hathaway office out there.
No, they're here. They're signed here in Northeast Florida.
Okay.
They work under my broker, and then which goes back to why you pick an amazing broker. He did the training to join the Pensacola Association on my behalf.
Cool.
Which I think kind of just shows that he had some faith in me being able to have a successful business out there.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to pay to join that MLS, PAR, the Pensacola Association of Realtors. So my agent there is technically a part of NEFAR and PAR. And yeah, it all started with some of my clients here would get orders to Pensacola, and they would call me and they would say, "You did such a great job here. Can you just represent us there? It's a state license."
Right.
And I'm like, "Well, legally, sure, but it's not in your best interest. I'm not there."
Right.
Like, I don't want to do something that's not in your best interest. And I would do a traditional referral.
Were you referring one particular agent all the time, or did you use several different and then find out one was getting a little more better 5-star reviews?
It's an interesting thing because I'm from there and I probably know 50 realtors there.
Okay.
So
Tough thing here now.
I always felt a little weird doing the referrals because I was like, I don't want anyone to get mad at me that I didn't pick them. So I would actually give my clients like some bios and be like, tell me who you want the referral to go to based on what the information I can provide. Then
Okay.
I'm not the one making the hard decision. And I just maybe realized that I'm a little bit of a controlling person. And no one was doing it how I wanted. And was like, why don't I just do this myself? And then one of my past clients reached out to me. He's in Pensacola, and he said, I've really been thinking about my real estate license. I was like, I've really been thinking about expanding to Pensacola. You went
Cool.
to the Naval Academy. You fit the mold.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
And I had leads in line ready to go. So the second he passed that real estate exam, we were off.
You have people rolling, and you have a connection out there. I mean, that's just I think in our lives, we wonder why things happen and so forth. And, people we meet and what they impact, whatever it was, whatever they changed trajectory. And obviously the timing of that call just hits you right. He's got all the other things that you want. The only thing, he's not an experienced, real estate agent, but I imagine, obviously your broker here buying into that and getting him up to speed. And obviously you feeding him leads after he gets so many at bats, he's going to know how to swing it.
Yep.
Type of thing. That's just, one of those things of putting yourself putting yourself out there that's the phrase you used earlier. You put yourself out there, and all of a sudden things lined up.
Yes.
And it lined up, hopefully at the right time, not too early, not too late.
Correct.
And all the great success in keeping that going, because I think that's just awesome. Let's dig in a little bit. We were talking pre-show, and it still mind boggles me today. You're dealing obviously with a lot of VA clients. Well, actually, I'm going to take a step back because I think that this will blend into it because you are dealing with the VA clients. We wanted to talk about the current market conditions. Both from the seller and the buyers. Yes. So there's different conversations going on, different expectations being set. What are you seeing right now? What are the conversations? And I imagine obviously you're coaching your team because even though they're experiencing the same market, they don't have the experience you have, let alone obviously your broker and the others that you're hopefully filtering to them. Right. How they want it. Are you on every buyer? You said you're on every buyer's consultation.
Yes.
So the seller consultation, how are you handling?
Yeah, so I offer to my team to be on everything. If it's their lead, they can choose if they want me on it or not. My green agents, I'm on 100% of everything. Mm-hmm. My one experienced agent has done a listing consult on his own very successfully, but he is great at doing things exactly how I would want them done. Getting things signed.
He's a good soldier.
He's the only one, and I think he will appreciate this if he's watching. He's the only one whose picture has actually made it onto our seller guide.
Okay.
Like, it takes time. You have to earn your spot in the seller guide.
Right.
So he's able to take that too. But I also also offer, when I'm doing a listing consult, people can sit in on them. So I've taken my new agents with me. I had a very high-end seller consult, and I said, why don't you come sit with me? It also can't hurt to have a second set of eyes on things. It also makes the client happy to see that there's a team of people, right?
Well, I would say also it gives you kind of some credibility. You have this, it's kind of like, hey, you're a guest on a podcast. You have credibility because you must have something good to say. When you're sitting there going, hey, do you mind if my new agent sits in with us to learn? It gives you credibility that there's someone actually wants to learn from you too. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's been really neat. And one of my newer agents is actually really good at prospecting, and she will get a lead, but it will ultimately be like a team lead where we tackle it together.
All right. So what are some of the things that maybe you're doing right now? Let's talk about sellers. Yeah. Going out with those sellers consultations now, really the last 6 months. And I think we're coming to a peak, right now of frustration. Because we have a lot of homes on the market. It's become a buyer's market now, where negotiations things are going. So when you're going into that seller consultation, a little different mindset than you had in 2021. Right. What are some of the extra things that maybe you've learned to slow down, and we got to talk about this?
I was actually talking about this yesterday, that I have kind of had it with this fluffy seller consult and the people pleasing element of a seller consult. I'm very honest with my sellers on what I think the home will sell for. I'm very, very honest on a marketing strategy, a price reduction strategy, all of those things. And I'm very, very honest about how buyers act, something that I think I have.
It's not really being honest. You are being honest. You're always honest. But I think you're being very direct.
Yes.
This is the market we're in. This is the situation. This is how I'm going to handle it.
Being realistic on what the experience is going to be like. I don't like the going in and being like, sure, we can price it at this, and I'll do the best I can. And no, because then it's just going to sit on the market. You're going to price reduce, and it's ultimately going to sell at the original thing.
And you're going to lose a lot of stress because every day it's out there. It's like, I got this house. It's been sitting out there for a couple of weeks. No offers yet. Right. What am I going to do? That it puts a lot of stress. And that I don't think people realize agents go through that. Yes. Yeah, they're appreciative to get the listing, but they also want to move the listing as quickly as possible because they don't get paid until it does.
I don't want to list homes. I want to sell homes.
Yeah. Exactly.
What's a listing if you can't sell it?
Exactly.
A loss, because I'm paying for photo, video. That's an expense for me if I can't sell it.
What are so when you're out there with the seller, in some of these sellers that kind of have, because I imagine you've got enough credibility now when you go in and you actually, hey, this is where they take your word and they go with it.
Right.
Where there's others who think it's worth $20,000 or $30,000 more. Type of thing, and hey, if I list, and I've heard this from numerous agents, if you list it $10,000 over what it actually should be priced at, you may not get anything at all. But if you price it at or slightly below what it should get, you might get multiple offers and actually get more than what that given line, that par line is. So what is your how are you? I guess what is the attitude that these sellers have? So the agents out there that are listening, that the sellers have, they think it's over. How are you handling it? Obviously you have confidence. We talked about that, but how do you work them down to be leaning more towards your side of how you should sell that home?
So a big question is timeline too. If your seller is coming to me and they need to close in the next 60 to 90 days, are you really willing to take that risk and overprice it?
Right.
Because if it sits on the market too, now we're entering the consumer behavior conversation of they're up late on Zillow and they see that it's 60 days on market, they assume something's wrong with it. So even if we price drop to market value, we're not going to get that. Now we're selling below market value.
Yeah.
Statistically, once a home sits for 30 days on market, you will not get the asking price, whether it's priced fairly or not.
And that's the market conditions, what we've kind of, the markets have created in the last 5 years, right? 2021, as soon as you put the sign in, you had multiple offers. So people think if it sits for a couple weeks, there's a challenge with it. Not realizing, sitting back and like you and I go, we have to sit back and go, oh, interest rates are high.
Right.
This is where the house is. It's not, on the water, the perfect house in the neighborhood, because we know those houses are going the
Right.
first weekend, right?
Right.
That have the ideal address, have everything's just perfect about it.
Right.
Those will go, but the run-of-the-mill house that's doesn't have all those extra, location things, they're sitting a little bit. But if you price them right, they'll go in 30, 60 days.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing something that I would recommend to sellers that I have seen more is requiring pre-approval before showings, because I have seen that, and I don't know, you can probably speak more on this than I can, but at certain price points I did not do that, because in the past I haven't done that. People were getting pre-approved, but we've allowed showings, then the buyer calls and they love it, they go to get pre-approved and they can't.
Yeah.
And that's really frustrating.
Yeah.
So maybe setting the expectation that rates have knocked some buyers out too.
Well, it does say, I mean, just in the last 5 years, from quoting $2,000 payments to $3,000 something dollar payments for the same size house. Now, granted, the price point has gone up, but the price point is not, it's going from 3% to 7% is a big, big swing in situations. That does boggle me from the standpoint, as much as we preach it, as much as we talk about it. And I know you guys are trained on it and everything you do. You talk to a client, buyer consultation, great. Let's get your pre-approval and locked and loaded, because that is a step to closing. I think a lot of agents neglect that.
It's one of my pet peeves. I do not go out for a showing without a pre-approval.
Right.
To a point where I've called the lender and been like, hey, they're trying to schedule showings. Where is this? What's going on? It's a waste of time, and that gets their hopes up.
You tipped on something agents should be listening to that are listening to you right now. You talked about you going into a seller consultation. You're tired of the fluff. You're like, hey, this is my business. You're hiring me to do the business. You want me to do the business. This is where you need to price it. We're gonna sell it. That's gonna get you the best dollar for what that, because this is here. I have all the data right here.
Right.
I can prove that. The pre-approval, not going out and start showing homes, and then, granted, you may get lucky more times than not that you get the pre-approval. You're ready to submit the offer. That's just 9 out of 10 times is what I get. Hey, we're looking at the South. They want to make an offer. Send me a pre-approval for this amount. I'm sending the pre-approval over as they're putting the offer together, and it goes in. So how many houses do they show before getting the pre-approval? Now, you're rolling your dice. You just spent all this time with this person. What if all of a sudden you pull up? Because I'll tell you what guys are doing. I do not like this in the market, is the soft credit pull. It doesn't pull all the bureaus. You never know what's sitting on the credit bureau 3 when you're only pulling 1. And so I am religiously, I do a full pull. I have some ways to get around the trigger lead so they're not getting phone calls. There's a little trick to that, but
which is great. I've had that complaint from clients before, and I'm like, this isn't me, guys.
Well, I'll lay it out there for everybody, because I hate the trigger. And I learned this in a training I was at a couple months ago, and I was like, brilliant. And that's what I've been doing. When we go in there to do a pre-approval, we actually choose, hey, it's a single family home. Here's the purchase price, blah, 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 blah. We put that information in. We go down, fill out the credit information, hit the button, pull credit. Well, it's sending the bureau that information that they're looking for. There's a person looking for a single family home, because that's the value they're getting by selling that lead to the other lenders. Hey, we got someone who wants to buy a $600,000 home.
Right.
Everyone call on.
Right.
But if you go in there and put a $50,000 manufactured home, nobody wants that lead. So that's the trick.
Love that.
That is the trick. Then you go back in after the credit's pulled and change it back to a single family home, because that has nothing to do with their credit score.
That's so interesting.
Yes. I haven't had, I've been using it for a couple months now. I have not heard anybody say they've been bombarded. But people will shop no matter what, but that's a little trick. All right, for those who are listening, that's how you get around the trigger lead. Hopefully the trigger leads will go away. But anyway, but you spend all this time, and yeah, you're rolling your dice. And I think also what, Julianne, what you come across with your seller's consultation, and this is why people use you, is you come in with the confidence. This is my business. I'm very serious about it. I don't have time to screw around and put your house out there for 2 or 3 weeks and not get a showing, then have to call you and say, we need to drop the price, and all the reasons why that looks bad. Same thing with the pre-approval. Okay, great. Buyer's consultation, you sign here. All right, now what lender are you calling? I need your pre-approval by morning.
Yep.
That's the way that's the way it should be. They can go shop for lenders later. They just need a pre-approval.
We have 5 days after we go under contract, right? We have a 5-day application period, but we have to have the pre-approval to go under contract.
Mm-hmm.
I made the mistake in the first probably 5 months of my business back in 2020 where what a mistake. I had a client who did the same thing as most of my clients. I assumed you can afford this, right? I know what you make.
Right.
All of my clients make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he had really made some financial mistakes, and sure enough, spent days showing houses and couldn't get it. Now he's upset, right? He's gotten his hopes up. Like that's
because they don't know. They really don't know.
Right?
Especially someone who's made mistakes. They made mistakes because they don't know.
And now I have wasted 3 days too.
Yeah.
So there's a time value on it where if we would have done the pre-approval process and found out, then he could have come up with a plan to home ownership, which I will be there for, right? I will still be here a year later. Whatever you want to do, we can get you there. But let's not go see homes that we can't buy.
Here's the tip for the agents, because here's the rebuttal that you get. Mm-hmm. I don't want my credit pulled right now. Well, first of all, that should send off a red flag.
Well, then you should
it's not always a red flag. It usually is that they're afraid of their credit score.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that credit report is good. That credit report you pull on day one is good for 120 days. If you close on a home in 120 days, we're going to use that same credit report.
Right.
So what I tell us is, are you going to buy? Are you going to maybe making an offer and on a house in the next couple of weeks? Yeah, great. So you're going to close on that house 30 to 45 days later. That's well short of 120 days. So pulling the credit report today, we make sure there's no boo-boos on there, stuff that you don't know. Because let me tell you, there's stuff that comes up. It's like, oh, hold on a second. Can you pay off this card? Oh, did you know you have this old mortgage on here? We need, or whatever. I mean, there's stuff that happens on people's credit reports they don't know. I had one recently. Actually, we're working on it right now. The lender, and it affects his credit score because he has another house up in Virginia, but it's not reporting on the credit bureau. Well, he's had some boo-boos on his credit report, but if his house is being reported on there, his credit would be much higher. So we got to get that house reported on there. So now I can actually possibly get him approved, because they're going to say, oh, he's making the payment on that house. He can co-sign over here and get this done. So you just don't know. They don't know, and don't assume they know, and stop being afraid of, I don't want my credit score. That is a fallacy. It is bogus. And if their credit score is affected that much they don't qualify, they're probably not ready to buy a home.
Which I kind of have even a rebuttal to that is, if you're at a point where you're not ready to have your credit score pulled, we shouldn't be. Something for me on showings is we're not going to see homes to see homes. We're going to see homes to buy them.
Mm-hmm.
So we shouldn't be doing showings unless when you find the right one, you're ready to submit an offer.
Yeah.
How can you be ready to submit an offer? With a pre-approval.
Yep.
So.
Well, we do occasionally, the agent on the other side will call the lender. Mm-hmm. and ask them, what's the situation and so forth. Now, obviously, we can only tell them just so, hey, they got their credit's great, low other debt, they make great income, should be no problem at all. That's all we really can say. But if you could actually get started early, we can send it to an underwriter and say, yeah, they've already been underwritten. They're good for that price point. And that down payment and so forth. So, which is, we can be more detailed and so give more confidence. All right, let's switch over before we run out of time here. Let's drill in on, because you're dealing with a lot of VA clients.
Yep.
All right, we're still getting the old wives stuff, and I can't stand this.
Yes.
I can't believe some of these agents are still out there. Can any agent? I want any agent listening right now and I know Julianne's never had. Have you ever had someone they said they could not get approved for a house because they were using a VA loan?
No. So I've negotiated some pretty insane repairs, especially if I'm in the historic districts selling these super old homes. We always get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And this also goes back to, like, it is a buyer's market. The VA
But would those repairs have to be done for anyone buying that home?
I would recommend it.
Yeah.
Some of these repairs come back, and I'm like, I would want this done no matter what.
Right.
So.
Right. Unless you're literally going in there thinking, hey, I'm buying it below market as its current condition, because I know I'm going to fix it up and make more. But that's not the case 99% of the time.
A lot of them are insurance repairs.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something I've had to say to listing agents recently is these are insurance repairs, and you need insurance for all the loans. And even cash buyers, they may want insurance.
Yeah.
So the insurance repairs are different than the VA loan repairs.
The VA appraiser is generally the most senior appraisers out there. They do FHA appraisals. They do conventional appraisals. They do construction appraisals. They generally are endorsed to do all that stuff. VA is like the highest endorsement they can get. They value it very much so. Right. They don't want a bad reputation, but I've never had a VA appraisal come back and said this house cannot be loaned on by a VA appraisal. If there's termite, it looks like there's been some termites here, you're going to get that on every appraisal. Hey, there's water damage. That's every appraiser is going to come back. It's not just the VA.
I very rarely even have an appraiser flag something. Anything that we ask for is just getting that clear WDO report.
Right. Yeah. Your home inspector is actually pointing more out than the appraiser, which they should, because the appraiser only is using their eyes and walking around. The inspector is finding all these things. Right. So if you're fearing anybody, fear the inspector on a house that you know needs some stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To me, VA loans they're great buyers. The rates are lower. We should be happy that people are using their benefits. They're entitled to these benefits and they deserve them. It's something I could go on and on about. I'm way too passionate about it. I've
said it numerous times. Anyone talking about VA, wherever you go, they talk about they allow a much higher debt ratio. Yeah. Boo-boos on there. They're, if you run across it, but just because they're a veteran doesn't mean they have boo-boos and a high debt ratio. Some of them are solid. They're using their VA benefit because a lot of guys are coming out with maybe just a 10% disability, but that waives the funding fee. And because it's the government is guaranteeing a portion of that loan, they are actually getting a little bit lower interest rates, less risk for the lender.
Yep.
Yeah. So tell us some. We were talking about some stories here. Pre-show, I kind of forgot them, but I said we need to talk about that. But some of the situations you've had, if you're down at NEFAR talking in front of a bunch of agents about accepting a VA offer, and just because they're doing VA doesn't mean they're doing 100% either.
Right.
Yeah.
So I actually talk about this all the time. My brokerage asks me to speak about it a lot, and I'm probably too passionate about it. But a really good example that I see is we will go on MLS, do our home search, and it will be listed that they're not taking a VA loan. An inexperienced buyer's agent will then be like, oh, so we can't see it. I immediately, if I think that home could be a good fit
hold on. So throw that one by me again. What?
An inexperienced buyer's agent may just automatically dismiss that home and not take their VA buyer to it.
Oh, because they're have some preconception.
Well, they just assume, it's not marked to take a VA loan. Why waste my time? But if I think it's a good fit, I'm going to call that listing agent and say, why aren't y'all taking a VA loan? And then I typically get something of like, well, the seller sold a home 40 years ago to a VA buyer and it didn't go well.
So you're taking advice from a seller.
Right. Exactly.
And you're the professional.
And so then I give some type of education. I've looked at the pictures. I'm like, this is a brick home. What are we worried about? Right? Like, at least try it.
Yeah.
Also, you can't get under contract. You've been on the market for 75 days. Why not take the VA loan?
Exactly.
Right?
And I believe you're telling the truth. I believe the example you just gave me is a line that someone gave you. that person should step out of real estate for a little while and take a checkup from the neck up, because that is just hilarious.
I hear it a lot where it's the seller has had some bad experience and didn't want to take VA loans. And I immediately am like, if you are not checking that box when you put the listing in MLS, you are closing out buyers, because most agents would not pick up the phone like I did and
call.
to
Yeah,
convince them.
100%. The 70% that didn't do a deal in 24, 100% of them wouldn't even show that house because the listing agent did not put VA on there.
And to make people feel better, there are things we can do on limiting our repair requests to only those required for financing and insurance. You know, there's always a middle ground to be found. There's always a conversation to be had, a negotiation to be done. And I truly believe, especially in this market, we can make buyer and seller happy.
I'm going to give you, here's the out, people. Here's the save. There is a VA renovation loan.
Yes.
If there actually a house that has that much work that needs to be done, you can flip it to a VA renovation loan, just like an FHA 203K. It's a very similar type process. You can flip it to the VA renovation loan. They can get the extra money to fix it after closing. So you close the house, you get paid, and then it's on them and the lender to in the contractor to get the rest of the work done.
I've done a couple of them, and they're so neat.
Yeah.
It's like a very neat thing, but also a lot of lenders don't offer them.
I have that goes. I mean, we can go back to having obviously the right. I'm sure you have yours in there. VA renovation loan, and obviously we have the VA construction loan. A lot of people don't have there, but if just the agent not putting VA as a possible buyer there, I think the very first question I would ask, if you're an agent listening right now, and your seller says, "Oh, I've had bad experience," ask them when. I guarantee you, their answer will be prior to 2007.
Yes.
Oh, back in 2000, we tried to sell a house and had a problem. Disregard. Totally different process now. It's much better. The VA is the underwriters are more experienced now after nearly 15 years of having 30-40% of the loans being FHA and VA. They're a lot more experienced, highly specialized VA underwriters out there. They'll get that loan closed.
Yes.
So if they're saying that was back prior to 2007, just say, sorry, sir, that was a different loan.
Yeah. And we live in a military town in Jacksonville. Think about the bases we have and the people that you're shutting out. You're missing out on a lot of well-qualified.
Well, I think it goes back to they have to be wise that at one time, because they weren't, a Vietnam vet, which probably should have gotten a disability, did not get disability. But today's guys that were in Iraq and Afghanistan, that most of them, if not all of them, are coming out with some form of disability. Could be hearing, whatever it is. They're getting something small. They are exempt from the funding fee. They want to use their VA benefit, whether they're putting nothing down or 20% down or whatever, because they're going to get a little bit lower rate. And then with today's market, you want to talk about, and I don't know if you thought about this, but with the high interest rates today, that the interest rate reduction, or we call VA Streamline, is the nickname for it. In FHA has a streamlined product too, to say, hey, I know the interest rate's high right now, but we're going to get you in here. But hopefully in 18, 24 months, instead of low sixes, it's low fives. Yep. And we're going to refinance this. And the great thing about your VA benefit is you don't even need to do appraisal. They just verify you're working. They don't even care what your income is on that. As long as you've been making the payments, they say, oh, you're still working, or you're still receiving Social Security, or you're still receiving that pension for $200. Great. You're making your payment. Done. And it reduced costs, and they streamline very quickly. 2 weeks later, they got a lower interest rate.
Yep.
So it is a benefit to be looking for VA buyers. I'm preaching because you got me going this morning when I heard these stories.
I'll be on the phone with another agent talking about, I don't know, WDO repairs or accepting a VA loan, and my husband will tap me and be like, it's going to be okay. You don't have to get so fired up about this. But I'm the exact same way. I'm so passionate about it, and it's a hard thing to see when people just don't
Yeah.
have the education.
I want every agent out there to hear the stuff that Julianne's talking about. To write some of these agents' names down because I need to know about them. You can text me silently, anonymously.
Not when we are live on a
Not live on a podcast. We won't throw their names out there, but we can tell their stories. So
Yes.
hopefully they hear them and go, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Because you are losing it. You're really, if you are, especially in a town like Jacksonville or Florida in general, because we have a lot of retired veterans
Yeah.
here as well. And not only the basis, but the VA loan products is the best thing out there. Man, I can't say anymore. Do you have any other good stories that what haven't we talked about?
None that I should share right now. But,
Well, they're good. Oh, not right now. Not right now. Okay.
I do have a lot of VA loan stories. I think in this market, what I would just say is everyone needs to be open-minded. It's a hard market, and it's a hard market to sell in, whether you're an experienced agent or not. We should not be closing out loan types. Let's do our best to get it done.
I got a tip here too, and it can be help leveraged in a negotiation, especially when maybe you do have a veteran who doesn't have a lot of cash, a seller doesn't have a lot of equity or wherever it is. They basically bottom out. Maybe whatever they owe in the house, they're not making much more than that or whatever when they sell it. VA has that $6,000 they give you for upgrade the. What's the energy efficient stuff?
Yeah.
Could be windows. It could be a new air conditioner, which obviously, if you got an old air conditioner now, $6,000 in most cases is not going to buy you an air conditioner, but you get $6,000 towards it.
That's something.
Yeah. So when you're out there, having these tight negotiations and it's getting down, it's like, oh man, that air conditioner. Get with your lender. Talk about, hey, what if we throw that in there? It's just added to the loan for them.
Yeah.
So it's not they're not having to put it, but at least they're getting that $6,000 towards whether it's need new windows, whether the new AC, whatever pretty much anything they do is going to be more energy efficient than what they have.
Yeah.
And they're going to go out there. Obviously, air conditioning is really easy. They go out and they get a bid from from any of the air conditioning companies. So yeah, we'll put it in. It's going to cost $10,000.
Yep.
They submit that. They'll get their $6,000 will be put in that escrow. They go and have the air conditioning replaced. They come up with $4,000 and they get the $6,000 out of escrow and they paid for it.
Absolutely.
So those things are out there. Some little extra leverage. I think the biggest thing though, like you said, and I've mentioned this before, but you brought it up. VA rent. If your house, if the house is that damaged, there's VA renovation loan. We can flip it to a renovation.
There's always a way.
Yeah, there's a way to make that happen.
There is always a way.
Yeah, because there's only one address, and if you get someone, I think you would agree in your experience, if someone goes by a house, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, this is like the best address, going to the right school, everything else lines up, but there's some work to do on the house. They'll overlook that little bit of work
Correct.
because it matched. As they say, most people really only get about 80% of what they desire, right, in a home. So if it's meeting 79% and that other, little percent is something, you can do in a renovation loan, get it close. So
Absolutely.
I'm preaching this morning. I'm off on my coffee this morning. What would we like to add?
I think that's it. I mean, I just stand by there's always a way to get it done.
Yeah.
There's always a negotiation. Someone can always flex.
Let's finish it up because I think the negotiations right now is like you said, the market, the buyers and sellers, everyone's got their unique quirks. There's a lot of this preoccupation going on. There's I need a longer I want to sell the house but I can't close for 90 days. So people taking that longer runway from that. There's all these little different things. When you're approaching let's just say the agent on the other side of the deal is going in with you. What can they expect from the Grant Johnson Group as far as negotiation in your attitude, your mindset when entering into a negotiation, which I imagine the initial mindset is every deal is going to have a negotiation. If it doesn't, go buy a new car or something, or go play the lottery, right? Because every deal is going to have some sort of negotiation. So have that attitude, be prepared. But what is your attitude when you enter into a contract knowing, okay, hey, we're going to have some negotiation coming?
So I want to be as positive and I would say collaborative as possible. That being said, if an agent decides to take a turn and make it nasty, which happens, I am happy to oblige, and I will win. But I like to enter negotiations very positive.
Well, there must be. I mean, I imagine you don't necessarily fight fire with fire. You're not saying that.
No.
But how do you? Because I know you've had it. You've had enough negotiations, and there's enough agents out there that are inexperienced on the other side, and I think they get actually too emotionally attached. We're not realizing you guys are your jobs are to facilitate an agreement of some sort, and when the agreement's made, everyone wins.
I will revert to the contract is my biggest thing, because I do see that. I see agents get really emotional. I got a text the other day that was like, well, my sellers would just like to remind the buyers that they're under contract at X amount under asking. And I just said, I'm aware of the purchase price versus the list price. I did write the contract.
Right.
But I just said, I'm aware of the purchase price versus the list price. This is still my client's request. And my job is to represent my buyer. Let me know when you have a more formal response. It's black and white. We do not have to make emotional statements. We don't have to do any of that. We don't have to be mean.
Do you look up the other agent when you do business with them? I mean, I wouldn't be embarrassed because if you're not doing that, you're not knowing who's on the other side.
Gosh, sometimes I feel like I'm petty when I do that, but yes, I do.
To see where, especially one that would come back with a kind of a comment like that, you're like, how many deals has this person done in the last 12 months,
what
right?
was the point in saying that?
Yeah.
What did you accomplish for your seller? Nothing.
Well, I think the reason why they did is because they themselves are, there's that time period of silence, right?
Yes.
They've countered offered or what? Yeah, I assume this was a counter, and they're waiting for you to actually respond. So they're like, oh, is Julianne doing everything? And if they looked your numbers up, they looked at reputation, they listened to the podcast, they would know what you're doing, and you are trying to close the deal because the fish is on the line. We got to get them in the boat. You don't want to, oh hey, let's drop this hook and go find another. No one
wants to put a house back on the market.
No
one wants to go back and start their home search again. And nobody wants to do that. So why are we being mean to each other?
Yeah.
Right. But at the end of the day, I do have to remind the other party sometimes I do have to represent my buyer, and whether or not I agree with my buyer's request, I am going to make it. And I think that is something that some agents don't understand, because I've made requests that seem aggressive, and they're like, why would you make that? The report doesn't look that bad. And I'm like, but I do represent my client.
Yeah.
And this is what my client wants and what my client needs to feel comfortable moving forward. There's no need for us to have an emotional conversation. Let me know when you have a formal response.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, one, if you're not doing a lot of deals and you're like, oh my God, I got to get fed next, you have a lot of anxiety when it comes in. But I would recommend look up who you're working with and have a conversation with them where you're at. The two of you can have a private conversation. Your goal is to get the deal closed because you have someone who wants to buy the home and you have someone who wants to sell it, and they don't want to have to restart either. Neither one of them do. They're just trying to figure out these couple of $1,000 a lot of times,
and it's just nothing in the grand scheme of buying a home.
Yes.
So I encourage that to my buyers too and my sellers. Why are we arguing about $800?
Right.
This is nothing compared to the $500,000 purchase.
Right.
And I see a lot of people get caught up on principle, which I get because I tend to act that way myself. But I've learned to be, ride that logical train. The other party doesn't convey with the home. So just because they're being difficult doesn't mean that we shouldn't take the deal.
Right. I appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This was good. We got a little heated VA talk. We probably got some good reels out of that.
I'm always getting way too excited.
The reel's going to cut me off going on about the VA loan. But it just blows my mind that it's still out there no matter how many trainings people go to on the VA loan. No one goes into a VA training and they're like, hey, make sure those type of clients don't make an offer. Or if you got this type of house, don't put it's VA eligible. No one has ever said that in a training. I don't understand what's
available too, and I say this to agents in my office. If you want to call me and talk about VA loans and learn more about that representation and working with those clients, I am happy to help.
Or you said like one of their hangups is not listing VA as a possible loan option, which agents who are inexperienced are going to see that, not make the full phone call. You never show the house. If you are, you have that question, is this going to be a problem with a VA loan? To call you.
Yeah.
And talk about it. Let's look at the listing. What problems do you have? And I guarantee your answer is going to be no, list VA.
Get a pre-list inspection.
Because the bottom line is there's renovation loans out there that can save deals. You never know how passionate the buyer is about the house.
Yes.
They may just it don't matter what's wrong with it. They want that house because it's so close to their parents or sister or whatever, or the school or whatever. It's like, oh my God. And they have this envision that they'll be willing to pay a little bit extra cost that there is involved in the renovation loan and have the renovations loan because that address is what they want.
Absolutely.
You just don't know. You just don't know. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Hey, I just want to let everyone know, thanks for listening. Julianne is out there. She has a team. She's very successful. Reach out to her on social media. Obviously, if you're looking at the screenshot there, you can see her phone number at the bottom there. But obviously in the show notes, we'll have all her contact informations, social medias and so forth. Reach out to her if you have any questions. VA, she does a lot with it, as we discussed here in the podcast. Any questions whatsoever, please.